AI superpowers. Let's go. 10 minutes. We're going to get through as many as we can. And I'm going to bring on those slides, Stephen, from backstage. But first and foremost, we need to play. We need to get back into the joy of having fun and making mistakes and being able to build all kinds of wild, crazy things. Let's dive into it. Number one, use this. But the trick is to do it with a colleague, to speak it out. When you're using AI chatbots, often we get stuck with typing. So frustrating to have to try and put our minds and our ideas down on paper. So follow this script, this template, but do it with a colleague as if you were creating a job description. You were standing by the water cooler telling them, here's my goal. Here's what I want to do. I'm going to give you a ton of stuff to use. I'm going to tell you exactly what I want and need, not just a task, but here's my desire. Here's what would set my heart on fire. Here is what great looks like. And here is what failure looks like. Here is where I think you could go wrong. And here are the danger zones, the risky bits. So imagine you're with a colleague and you're briefing something to them that they've never done before. Use this, but before you jump onto ChatGPT, have a conversation, have a yarn, as we say in Australia, have a chat about all these things, explore it together, ask curious questions. And only then do we use the tech? Do we use the tool? Be humans. We've had conversations for thousands of years. It's part of storytelling, our culture, our essence. Use that skill. You've got it. And then secondly, use that voice with the tech itself. Okay, I'm going to use that template and I'm going to show you what I mean in real time by use that tech. Hey ChatGPT, I am a fundraising manager at an NGO and I have a really tricky thing. We've come up with all these ideas, but it's so hard to get something that's innovative. I want an idea that cuts to people's hearts and minds, but I want you to do it based on a recent social media trend. Okay, so pick the trend for me, figure out what it's going to be, and I want you to come up with 20 creative concepts. Now, good looks like you surprising me, you showing me you can be insightful and driven by data and insights and storytelling and systems thinking all at the same time. Now, the danger is that you're going to give me this terrible ChatGPT style Google an idea version. I don't want that. I want your brilliance. I want the uniqueness to show that you understand fundraising proposition, that you understand social media algorithms to cut to the core. And I want you to give it to me in 5 concepts that you're selling me as if I'm your boss. I want you to really bring them to life. Tell me why they would work, all the features. A little bit more information about our org is we work with crisis response in communities impacted by conflict and disaster. So it's got to be aligned to that brand message. And as doing so, please don't do those horrible things that push on equity and diversity, inclusion, and fail. Okay, I want these to be legit, to hit to my heart. Okay, I'm going to let that transcribe for a second, and then I'm going to put it into a little tool, little GPT called a PLAI prompter. So this takes my mess, my chaos, and I've created it to optimize a prompt based on that first screen. Everything that we need out of a good prompt to clean up my writing. So I've used transcribe way faster than I could ever write. And I'm going to put that in there to make a perfect prompt. Now, I'm not going to make you watch me do that. We're going to leave that cooking, both versions of it. And then we're going to come back to see what we have cooked up, okay? So I'm going to leave that going and come back here. What next? Whilst that's cooking in our kitchen, okay? The next one, after using that script, talking to a colleague, using your voice and leaving it to bake, is have a bit of a build with a tool called Lovable. Now, if you haven't heard of Lovable before, it is an app and web builder. Why would I tell you to use a web and app builder if that isn't your immediate role? Well, I want to tell you a story. We were with a client in London, and their team had never used AI in that context before. They were brand new. We were exploring it in an AI experience day. And I showed them a tool and I gave them a simple thing. I said, create whatever you want, wildest dreams. It can be a website for a cat exchange party booth. It can be a deep app that goes into psychology insights because they worked in behavior change, whatever it happens to be. And that's all I told them. Okay. All I told them was that. And yes, Lovable is free, to someone in the chat that said that, for a few builds, as all these AI companies do. And that's it. I didn't tell them how to prompt. I didn't tell them all these technical tools or structure. I said, have fun, create. And what came out of that was incredible. One of their team in 30 minutes created an entire platform to manage their peer-to-peer fundraising participants. It was visual, it was incredible. It gave tips on how all the bits connected. And another one created a website to be able to find the best vegetarian food anywhere you go around the world, which is amazingly helpful and important for teams like WWF and Greenpeace when they have ethical policies that ensure they're aligned. So I'm not going to build that. We only have 10 minutes, but I'm just going to say, check it out. Build something. Don't try and make it perfect. Just explore, just experiment, lean in to making mistakes. Then the important one, getting in the flow. One of the reasons I started with that structure and then with some voice is when you start joining those things together, that is when the brilliance happens. When you talk with a colleague and then record it and you get the transcript, and then you ask AI to do the hard work of improving your prompt, and then you lean into building that on Lovable, and then you give that out to your colleagues by asking it to give you a 1-minute pitch. That's where the creative flows happen. And that's the space where we don't need perfect data. We don't need perfect tech. We don't need huge budgets. We need ideas. We need our passion. We need the experience we already bring to the room. You're all builders of AI. You can all be creators. And it is one of the most amazing things about AI is before we start touching on the complexity of things like predictive analytics or agents, or all the buzzwords that you might hear, it's that we can spur on that creative flow. We can sit and talk with our colleague about what are we missing? Where's our bias? What are the ideas we're not thinking about when it comes to our strategy? And when we get in the flow and do that conversationally and following that structure, I guarantee that you will be amazed by what comes out. So what do we create? Let's take a quick look. We've got 1.5 minutes to go. Okay, so concepts, short form video, day in the life storytelling, spontaneous giving via social media. So who have we got? We've got a challenge and narrative beats, video movement, peer-to-peer participation, moral harm framing, spontaneous giving. Don't know about that one. 20 raw concept seeds. So here we go. Light in the Ruins challenge. People share a short video with one object salvaged from a disaster. This is crazy because I used to work for an NGO and we actually did that. We did, and I can link it to people if you're interested on email, but about what they kept. What did they take with them when they went and when they had to flee their home? What was important to them? And that is the story that even if you've never been in a disaster situation, that you can connect to. So I'm not going to read the rest of those out, but you can see how we can string together these tools and lean into the creative flow of realizing that we can all do this, and we can all do this well. We can all do it with those guardrails, with the dangers baked into it. So the final thing I want to leave with you is if you're feeling overwhelmed today, if you're feeling like, how can I actually become a more effective user? I would say this: stay inspired, never stop creating, reimagining, playing, and designing. There are a million ways to use AI. There are a million ways to use it responsibly, effectively, but also really playfully. And I love having to play with that. So go back, use voice, create a wild, wacky website on Lovable, get into the flow, share the results with your colleagues, even if they're a hilarious failure, and start realizing that you can do all of that without any budget, without any extra tool stack, without any digital transformation. That's our spark for today. We're running a bunch of sparks throughout the day. And this is one little preview of what we'll be covering in the Summit Plus AI capability immersion. Okay, we'll chuck the link in the chat, even though we're now going off stage and about to do another one. But please explore. This is about turning insight, these little sparks, into long-term sustainable impact and action, where we go much deeper and we get into those flows, into the design, into the systems thinking. So thank you all so much. I will see you the rest of today on the Spark stage, and enjoy the rest of your summit. I'm out.